Everyone, Ment here. Welcome to Know Your Fretboard, Lesson 2, Degrees and Intervals. So if you're just now seeing this live or on YouTube later when it's archived, what I'm doing here is offering a 6-part little lesson series that I call Know Your Fretboard. And all this is just some basic but very, very important fundamentals to know on the guitar that I've just run into a lot with my own personal students and people who've taken courses and have asked questions where there's just some holes in their playing and their fretboard knowledge. So this is covering the basics. This is very applicable theory, nothing too crazy, but stuff that I find that a lot of guitarists just don't have in their playing and to use at their disposal. So we're going to talk all about degrees and intervals in this lesson. But the previous lesson, which is archived on the YouTube channel, is all about knowing your notes all over the guitar and using some different ways of finding all of those notes and kind of putting them into a pool of what I would call major scale notes, which is the basis of everything. So today we're going to pick up with that. So if you're following along on the PDF, and if you want the PDF, there is a link in the description to get it. We're in the key of C. So we found out last time all the notes in C and where they are in the guitar. I'm hoping you did that, as well as some other keys as well. But for now, we're going to be in C. So I'm going to use this little kind of position pattern to play all my notes in C. I've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now that repeats itself all over the fretboard, but we're going to work out of that today. So we already know all of these notes. Now, if you've been playing music for a while, a guitar for a while, either as a hobby or career, you probably know that a lot of people start saying numbers instead of notes. So, someone will say, play the 1 chord, play the 4 chord, play the 5 chord, or, the melody is 1, 4, 5, 2. Things like that. So all that is taking those notes, starting on C, and just giving them a number and just, counting up. So instead of saying C, we're now going to say 1. Instead of D, we're now going to say 2. Instead of E, we're going to say 3. Instead of F, 4. Instead of G, 5. Instead of A, 6. Instead of B, 7. Instead of C, 8 or 1 again. But for now, we'll call it 8. That next C, the octave. So that is, very important to be able just to go play up it and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The next really important thing to do is just be able to kind of like quiz yourself almost and go, okay, what is A in C? Okay, that's the 6. What is the 2 in C? Oh, that's the D. And then do the opposite. What is the D in C? Oh, that's the 2. What's the F in C? That's the 4. And be able to do that, and do that through all your keys. You just got to do it, and you got to learn it, because there's no shortcuts to it other than just memorizing. It's like math facts. So we've put numbers to it now. So what does that really mean? Well, those are degrees of our scale. That's just a fancy way of saying we've numbered the scale now. And that this is a first, this is a second, this is the third, this is the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So a really cool thing we can do, a way in which that makes more sense theoretically than just saying that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is that if we start on 1, the next note is 2. It's a second up. It's the second note. If we start on 1 and go to the 3, that's the 3rd. So it's 3 up, or the 3rd up from 1. If we go to F, it's the 4th up from 1. G, the 5th up from 1. A, the 6th up. B, the 7th up. And so on and so forth. So that's where it's coming. We're just counting from 1 and going all the way up. Now, that's really important when you're talking about playing like different, some people think of like if we're starting from the D, someone said, okay, play me the second up from D. Well, that just means go up to the next note, E, in that pool note. So if we're in the key of C and someone says, hey, play me the third up from D, I would go D, that's 1, E is 2, F is 3. And that's how I'd find that. F is the third up from D. If someone said, hey, play me the fifth up from F, I would go to the F and then follow my notes up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The C is the fifth. So that's the really important way of doing that. So then you got to quiz yourself and do things like that in your playing and go, okay, if I'm just limiting myself to these 8 notes, can I start on, this C right here and say, find me the fourth up from C and go F. Find me the fifth up from C. G. Find me the fifth up from G. D. And by doing that, you're going to get more and more acquainted with the notes on the fretboard, but also the intervals between the notes. And then I would really recommend playing up like that, like going up the scale, if you will, instead of just like jumping up to the next note. Instead of going G to D for that fifth from G, play up it. And that's just going to reinforce where all those notes are on the guitar and making sure you're staying within that pool or key of notes. So that's the first part. That's degrees. Or in what you would start thinking about next is like the interval. So better said, those are the intervals. So the third of C is E. The third of D is F. So degrees are like the initial thing of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Intervals are then when we relate it to another note. Hopefully that makes sense and clicks with y'all. So if we're following on the PDF here, we look at the intervals. That's what we're just doing. C to D is a second. C to D is a second. C to E is a third. C to F is a fourth. C to G is a fifth. C to A is a sixth. C to B is a seventh. C to C is an eighth. That's what we just did a minute ago, but that's exactly what's written on the PDF. Now let's do that going up the string rather than across the string. So C to D is a second. This is the next example. C to E is a third. C to F is a fourth. C to G is a fifth. C to A is a sixth. C to B is a seventh. And C to C is an eighth. So more and more just getting used to those notes and comfy with those intervals, right? So do that through all your keys. So from that previous lesson, I taught you all the notes on the 6th string and showed you how you can find and break off from them and find all the notes on the guitar. So you just got to start with each note, and we have 12 unique notes, right? And just play through them like that. So that's the first part of this lesson is just the degrees and intervals. If you don't have that, pause it and learn it. The next part is starting to put either major or minor to them. And by that, we got to relate it back to our whole steps and half steps. That's kind of the basis for it. So if you're following on the PDF, if we play C to D, that is a major second. We know why it's a second. Why is it major? Well, because it's a whole step. If it was a half step, it would be a minor second. So now we start filling in the gaps. So C to D flat or C sharp is a minor second. C to D is a major second. Whole step versus half step. Okay? So the next one on the PDF is C to E. Well, we already know that's a third, so that's a major third because it's 2 whole steps combined. That's one way of thinking of it. If it was a minor third, it would be a whole step and a half step. So it'd be C to E flat. That's one way of thinking about it, like the whole steps combined with the half steps. I personally don't think of it that way. I've memorized all the notes in all the keys and what they are from like their foundation. And then if I need to alter them anyway, like making them a minor third or a major third or whatever, I think of it like that. So in this case, I know E is in the key of C, so if it's an E flat, it's a minor third. And I think that's maybe a little slightly easier way of thinking about it rather than having to construct all these whole steps and half steps in your head. So C to E is a third, a major third. C to E flat is a minor third. Okay? Our next one is C to F. That is a perfect fourth. There's a reason why it's called a perfect fourth. Just trust me, it can't be that third, right, the E, because that is a major third. So we just call it a perfect fourth. There's a lot behind it, but take it for that for now. It's kind of beyond the scope of this. Now, if we want to raise it, which is a little different because we haven't talked about raising notes. We've been talking about the minoring of notes or flattening them. If we want to raise it, it's called an augmented fourth. And all that means, augment, is just raising it up a half step. So C to F is a fourth. C to F sharp is an augmented fourth. It's a little different when we get to the fifth too. Unlike the major and minor thirds, the C to G is a fifth. But if we try to minor it or flatten it, it becomes a diminished fifth. So that diminished means we're just subtracting a fret from it or a half step from it. So depending on where you're coming from, it can either be called an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth. So we've got C to D second, major second, C to E, major third, C to F, perfect fourth, C to G, perfect fifth. Now C to A is a major sixth. If we want to make it a minor sixth, just drop it down a fret. There's our minor sixth, that's A flat. Then C to B is a major seventh. If we want to make it minor, we get the B flat. And then C to C is an octave. So by doing that, you've also kind of learned all the notes in between those. So not just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, but now you know D flat's the minor second, E flat's the minor third, F sharp is the augmented fourth or diminished fifth, A flat is the minor sixth, B flat is the minor seventh. And so what you do is you just repeat that across the fretboard. I'll give you another example. Let's move up to pretty much, let's do this position right here. A lot of people play out of this position. We take C here, up to D, there's our major second. C to E is our major third. C to F, perfect fourth. C to G, perfect fifth. C to A, major sixth. C to B, major seventh. C to C, and that would be an octave. Now let's put all the notes in between there. So C to D flat or C sharp, there's our minor second. And I'll call it D flat because it's really, we're trying to go to a D. That's explained in the first lesson of why you call things sharps or flats depending on where you are. The next one is a minor third, C to E flat. That's the minor third. C to F sharp, there's our augmented fourth, or C to G flat, there's our diminished fifth, C to A flat, minor sixth, C to B flat, our minor seventh. So that's how you fill that all in. Now you got to do that with all your keys. I don't think it's good you have to think about all this right now, but when you're playing, I'm not thinking all of this. That's a question that's frequently asked. Like, are you thinking that's the minor second and so on? No. Because if you've done the homework and done all this, you're going to start getting this stuff in your ear. So playing, if someone calls out, hey, can you play me a melody that goes 1, 3, 4, 5. Right? I can do that. If someone says, play me, the melody is 5 down to the diminished fifth, down to the fourth, and then up to the sixth. I can do that. So that's a good way of testing yourself too, is create little like, you know, flashcards or quizzes and say, name 4 notes and use them within the key. So like their actual functions, right? Or the real degrees within the key, and then start making little alterations to them. So another one, let's practice some. Let's do 1, and then we're gonna do a minor 7th, and then we're gonna do a 5th, and then a diminished 5th. Right? Let's do a perfect 4th, a major 3rd. Let's do a minor 2nd, and then a 1. So it's just making little quizzes like that, and you're going to get more and more acquainted with your fretboard that way. So practice your degrees and your intervals. You got to get the degrees down first, and then the intervals between it. A lot of us have grown up playing this exercise to warm up. That's a great exercise. That's exactly what we're doing. And those are all the intervals. So hopefully, if you just did that by kind of muscle memory, now you can go back to it and go, oh, there's the major 3rd. There's the minor 3rd. Minor 3rd. Major 3rd. Major 3rd. Minor 3rd. Minor 3rd. Major 3rd. Minor 3rd. Major 3rd. Major 3rd. Major 3rd, minor 3rd, minor 3rd, back. Hopefully I didn't miss anything in there. But that gives a whole new kind of breath to that thing. So shed all of that, and then follow up with me next week, and we'll have a new video here, the part 3. Appreciate it. Bye.